Good evening, guys. This is KB5 MIQ Big Boy. I had a great day in ham radio today. This morning, I was invited to be on the Coffee and Ham Radio's podcast, and I would like to give a shout out and thanks very much to Temporarily Offline, the Smoking Eight, KK6 USY Ham Radio Adventures, and FEP Labs Radio. These guys were super great hosts, and I'll thank them again for having me on there. So y'all be sure to check out their channels. And I'm gonna put a link to that podcast on this video today. And thanks again, guys. I really enjoyed it. Old Ham Radio Cat, she was a little shy this morning. Now she's getting here right in the big middle of everything when I'm starting to do a video. But thanks again, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna put a couple of other links in this video. Suburban DX and WXOV, Scott has got a really good video that I really enjoyed on CW versus FT8 being used in contests and DXpeditions. Y'all check that out. It's a real good video. I've had several questions here lately about my Shack gadget, my YouTube counter with the animation on it back here. So I'm going to relink the video from Broken Circuit Ranch on him building that. And if you got any questions, Kent, I'm sure will get you fixed up with any answers you got on that. Okay, guys, tonight's subject I've kind of talked a little bit about before, but we got a couple of our group is fixing to be putting some tower up this week, so I kind of wanted to go back in and touch a little bit on tower and antenna safety. And I think sometimes we get so involved in wanting to get on the air, we may overlook or cut some corners on safety. And guys, you can get hurt just as bad with a hobby putting an antenna up as you can about anything else. The number one priority, in my opinion, in putting antennas up is your close proximity to high voltage power lines. A lot of people don't realize this. They just know that electricity comes to their house and their TV works. But if you look from your house meter, the wires running from there to that pole with that can on it, that's the transformer. Those wires are insulated. There's two of them, insulated wires and a bare wire. That's your 240 volt drop to your house. That feeds your 240 volt single phase to your house electric house runs on. Those bare wires running up way higher in the air, running to that can off the main line running down your street is 7,200 volts primary at least. So you do not want to slip up and let an antenna get away from you and let it contact either of those wires, especially at 7,200 primary. And I'm going to give you a fine example of what can happen, because I met this guy years ago. And I remembered the accident when it happened. Back when I was probably in what they call middle school now, we called it junior high back in my day. There was a man from Clarksville taking his TV antenna down while standing on a butane tank. And he lost control of a push-up pole, and it contacted a 7,200 volt wire, and he became an instant quadriplegic. He lost both arms and both legs. If I remember right, both legs were at the knee, and I'm not sure he didn't lose one arm at the shoulder and the other arm at the elbow. I can't exactly remember. But I met him years later, worked with his wife. First job I had working for Walmart. Lived life normal after that as you can with 4 missing limbs, but he was upbeat about everything and lived his life. But that's a bad accident waiting to happen. So do not put any type of antenna remotely close to a high voltage power line. And if you're not sure then you don't put it up. Be sure you're far enough away from it. There's no way you can come in contact with it. All right. Now, the next is falls. We're all older now, or my group's getting older, with the exception of Cody and Adam. And Jeff and Tim are fixing to put a tower up. And I think they made a really good decision. They've rented a small lift to help them get that tower up. Years ago, I know Jeff would have rented a lift back in his 30s. He'd have climbed the tower. He did climb the tower and put one up back in the day. But the cost of a small tow-behind lift, I think this lift reaches 46 feet. If you're not putting up any more tower than that, it would be well worth the investment, especially if a couple of you was going to put tower up to split the cost of the rental and make you a lot safer installation. Lots of people have failed, and there's no way we may not ever know how many people have failed putting up a tower, push-up pole, climbing on the roof. It's very easy to do. A friend of mine got some Ron tower that was out of a lawsuit settlement where somebody had failed and they had tried to sue the manufacturer over them falling. I don't know the outcome of the lawsuit. I don't know anything about that, but that's how he come up with his tower. When you're climbing one of those things, proper safety equipment from footwear, gloves, climbing belt, helmet, do all of that to make sure you don't have a problem up there that could cause you permanent damage or any damage at all. I know back in the 90s when the climbing deer stands became the thing, a lot of deer hunters got their back broke, legs broke by improperly using those climbing deer stands, and they come down like a bumper jack or a high lift jack on a car. So be careful doing that kind of stuff. Gloves. I mean, you may not think about cutting your hands, and I know I hate working with gloves. I was a machinist for years, and we never used gloves using any kind of precision measuring instrument. Most of the time, I wouldn't wear gloves even running a machine, especially a lathe. That was a rarity that you saw me with gloves on. But when I work on my antennas letting this push-up pole down, I always wear gloves while I let it down and pull it back up. Save your hand from getting pinched in those sliding joints, anything like that. This hobby is wonderful. It's great. You can do whatever you want to do with it, but always keep some safety in mind when it comes to working on an antenna. A lot of guys think about, well, you're just in here in the shack talking. No, there's a lot more to it than that. And even periodically, you're going to have to climb them towers and let poles down to do some maintenance. I've got some maintenance that needs to be done on mine right now. But the number one thing, power lines. Make sure you're away from power lines when you put any kind of antenna up. Even if you're putting a ground mounted vertical up, you want to make sure you're not close enough to contact the power line with it. Same thing with climbing, proper safety equipment. I know my wife caught me up on the roof here a while back with a pair of Crocs on. Now, if I tell her I'm going to get on the antenna, she inspects my feet to make sure I've got better shoes on. But the main thing is be safe. Think about what you're doing. Get you a plan of attack down, and if you get a buddy to help you, do that. That'll just help it get done that much faster, and it's always enjoyable having somebody with you working on stuff like that. Guys, remember Main Trading Company in Paris, Texas. He's still got a bunch of end-of-the-year sales going on right now. All kinds of good stuff coming out up there. I've got working on some more MFJ review videos for this month. And having a lot of fun doing that. Thanks again to Coffee and Ham Radios. Everybody have a great day. This is KB5 MIQ Big Boy, Sub 3.